Hello there, everyone, anyone. I am recording this on Thanksgiving, and I thought this would be a good time to cast my votes for the Game Awards. For these large media based award shows, I've never put a lot of stock in the actual awards themselves. But I also don't really think that's the purpose of award shows like this. Mostly, I treat them as just a celebration of games in this case. And the studios that made them, the people that played them, the industry they exist in, just all of that stuff. And with that in mind, I think Thanksgiving is a really good time to cast some votes and kind of talk about the games on display. I probably won't have all my votes in this video because I've seen most of the categories, I think, and there are some where I just have no opinion. None of the games or entries mean anything to me. So, yeah. I also want to say to people who are really into, award shows like this, don't put too much stock into the actual awards, right? The Game Awards, it's one award show. If the games you like don't win, that's fine. These are ultimately just opinions of people. You're allowed to have your own opinion. Other people having their own opinion doesn't invalidate yours. And there are lots of different game ceremonies. So if you think a game got snubbed in one show, go check the others. Maybe it showed up there. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at award shows like this and you're looking at the awards being handed out. But yeah, all right, let's start with Game of the Year. We have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So for this one, for me, it's Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Baldur's Gate 3 is very close behind it, with honorable mention to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I've heard very good things about Alan Wake 2, and it's one I'm very interested in playing. I just haven't yet. So, Legend of Zelda, man, what is there to say about that game, that franchise that hasn't been said? This isn't a vote for the franchise, I get that. But Tears of the Kingdom, well, actually, to back it up, Breath of the Wild was just a fantastic industry-changing game. So many people looked at Breath of the Wild and went, we need to be doing that now. And then Tears of the Kingdom came along and said, okay, well, what if we just improve on that in virtually every way? There's more going on in the world. There are more NPCs to interact with. There are more quests. There are more colorful characters. The building mechanic fundamentally changes the way you can interact. There's just this huge paradigm shift in how Link exists in this world in Tears of the Kingdom once you can build. And the amount of creativity on display when that game came out was just mind-boggling. Like I said, Baldur's Gate 3 is a really close second. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm a big fan of CRPGs like it. I have very fond memories of playing, Baldur's Gate 2, the Neverwinter Nights, those games back in the day. And Larian Studios, oh boy, they just nailed it. They took their time, they did it right, and we are all better off for that game existing in the world. So that's what we got. Super Mario Brothers Wonder, I just want to shout out because I think I put it at the bottom of this list for games, but it's so much fun. It's so creative. It's so great. If you have any interest in Super Mario or platformers, check it out. It is just nonstop fun, creative, imaginative, delightful gameplay. All right, next category. All right, next up, game direction. Ooh, Mario Brothers Wonder. That's an interesting one. There's so much creativity in the game. There's so little repetition of what you go through. Something Nintendo's always been really good about with their Mario games, with their Mario platformers, is introducing new mechanics, letting you play around with them, and then like getting out. I am going to give it to Baldur's Gate 3 though. One of the main themes of that game is trauma and how, it affects people, how they work through it. There have been not just through lines of trauma with all the different characters, but realistic and appreciable differences in how it affects people and how they manage it and how it shapes them and their worldview. And I think, and I'm really impressed by that. So Baldur's Gate 3 gets it for me. Game direction, Baldur's Gate 3. Ooh, best narrative. Unfortunately, this is going to be an easy one for me because Baldur's Gate 3 is the only one of these that I've played. I think these are all games I want to play. They're on my to-do list, but yeah, no. Easy vote is easy, I suppose. Best art direction. Ooh, boy, howdy. Oh. All right, so for me, it's between Hi-Fi Rush and Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I haven't played Lies of P. As much as I love Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and I do, the amount of time I sank into that game is almost embarrassing. Maybe it suffers from being a sequel, but the art direction doesn't really stand out to me like at all. It's very pretty. I mean, it's Breath of the Wild. If you played Breath of the Wild, you know exactly what Tears of the Kingdom looks like, except there's more green stuff. I mean, yeah, it all did exactly what it was supposed to do. It's a very good looking game. One of the best looking Switch games I've ever played, but yeah, Mario Brothers Wonder, again, I've already talked about it. Very creative, very fun. All the animations are super smooth. I guess that goes to art direction. All of the enemy. No, there are some repeat enemies. You've got some Goombas and some Koopas in there, but there's so many new enemies that are pretty visually distinct and also fit in the world. So that was really fun. I gotta give it to Hi-Fi Rush though. I mean, I don't gotta. Mario's still pretty close behind, but I'm going to give it to Hi-Fi Rush. Part of it was kind of the surprise factor of Hi-Fi Rush. It kind of came out of nowhere and impressed so many people. And it has just such a fun, cheery, like comic book cell shaded sort of aesthetic, and I absolutely love it. Whereas like with Super Mario Brothers Wonder, I think part of the reason I'm not voting for it is you sort of expect that from a Nintendo game, right? Like Hi-Fi Rush exceeded expectations kind of because there were none, but Mario Wonder didn't, because if it were worse than it, like if it looked worse, that's what people would talk about. It looks great and people mention it, but it's not like blowing anyone's mind. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being overly nitpicky. Maybe I won't even keep this part in. Who knows? But yeah, so best art direction, gonna give it to Hi-Fi Rush. Good job, Tango Gameworks. Best score and music. Ooh. So I'm going to give this Baldur's Gate 3, in large part because of Down by the River. Phenomenal song. I don't know if it's like the official theme of Baldur's Gate 3, but like for me, it is. And something I just really appreciated, I saw a lot of content creators that I follow on YouTube basically being paid to cover or perform the song as like a marketing push for Baldur's Gate 3, and I absolutely loved that. Like that earned them a lot of points in my eyes. So maybe that's part of why I'm inclined to give it to him. I don't know, but Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 has great music and it fits everything you're doing and works great. Okay, so best performance I'm gonna give to Neil Newborn from Baldur's Gate 3. He voiced Asterion, and I mean, if you played the game, I don't know how much more there is to say. He just kind of blew that role out of the water. Um, Innovation in accessibility. This one I was really excited to vote for. Hands down for me, this is Street Fighter 6, and I don't even think it's close. An issue I've always seen with fighting games is getting new players invested in them. Uh, Fighting games are very dense. There's a lot to learn, a lot to understand. It's just a lot. So the modern control scheme was huge. It's competitively viable, even at like the highest levels of competition. Um, you can use the modern control scheme, which a lot of people were. It got a lot of flack early on as being for scrubs or noobs, and that's very silly. Um, I'm just really impressed that they thought through it all. They implemented it well. The other big thing that I chalk up as an accessibility feature is their world tour mode. Having a huge single player mode is great. I am someone who likes fighting games. I am not good at fighting games. I will play them quite a bit. I played a whole bunch of Street Fighter. I played a whole bunch of all of the Soul Calibur games. I played a bunch of Dragon Ball Fighters, and I'm just not good. But I still enjoy them. And so having this just huge, you create your character, you put together different moves and combos, and you can go get unlocks and buy cosmetics and play through a story. That was huge to me. Like, I support Street Fighter 6 just for that alone. And I also want to like shout out Capcom, because I was hugely put off by the way Street Fighter 5 released, and they completely earned back my trust in with Street Fighter 6. They nailed it. Very, very happy with Street Fighter 6 in all respects, and especially in terms of accessibility. I think I'm going to give it to Fortnite by a hair. They update very frequently. They're constantly adding new stuff. The collaborations are wild and all over the place in a positive way. FF14's improvements are slower and more methodical, which I think is good for is a little better for game health and game balance. But if there's an update to FF14 and they change your class in a way you don't like, or they make some storyline that you just have no interest in, that's kind of what you get for the next 6 months, 8 months. Whereas Fortnite, you don't like something, you wait a couple weeks, there'll be something new. So I'm gonna give it to Fortnite by a hair. Oh. Okay. Best community support. Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates / patches. Okay. Including Destiny 2 here is messed up. I don't know how Destiny 2 gets a spot in this category. Look, I love Destiny 2 a lot. It is the game I have more hours in than any other game I have ever played in my entire life. That is not hyperbolic. But you cannot look at the Lightfall update and say, yes, this has community. Wow. I want to anti-vote for Bungie too. Like, I want to take them out of this category. This is... You want to see some unhappy gamers? Go check out any Destiny 2 social media. Wow. Okay. Anyway, moving away from that. So FF14 and No Man's Sky, actually, I think this applies to both of them. There are a lot of games you can look at and say, wow, this is just the most toxic community I've ever seen. FF14 and No Man's Sky are like the exact opposite. Okay, so I'm going to give it to No Man's Sky. Hello Games, dear developers, when you launch a game, don't just constantly lie about what's going to be in the game. That said, if you are going to, look at Hello Games, follow their example. Like, so much stuff is in No Man's Sky now. It is just bonkers. The amount of content that has been added to that game for absolutely free. No Man's Sky has been the perfect example of putting your money where your mouth is. They said, we messed up. Let us earn your trust back. Just don't take our word for it. Watch what we do with the game. And yeah, and they've nailed it. So No Man's Sky, best mobile game. Ooh, okay. So this is a pretty easy Honkai Star Rail for me. I was really impressed with how it feels like a real game, and I don't like saying real game like that, but I mean, it's a pretty good story. It feels epic, and the characters are interesting, and the storylines are, I mean, not the most innovative things in the world, but they fit what's going on, and they're enough to get invested in. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say than that. Best action game. Ooh. I'm going to give it to Armored Core here. I'm a big fan of the Armored Core series. I have extremely fond memories of Armored Core. I think 3 was the first one I played, but 4 was the one I played the most of, specifically Armored Core 4 Answers. And Fires of Rubicon was a nice update to the formula. It feels, well, I want to say it feels more modern. I mean, it feels more FromSoft. Yeah, but the action's good. It's fun to play. It feels good to zoom around maps, dodging around, shooting people. It's just solid. So it's a pretty clear winner for me. Action adventure. Yep, gonna give it to Tears of the Kingdom. It's a little less action, but a whole lot of adventure, combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. That's exactly what Tears of the Kingdom is. So yeah, and you can traverse in weird little contraptions you build yourself. So that's great. Best RPG. I mean, easy vote is easy here. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to compete with Baldur's Gate 3. It just is. Best fighting. I'm going to give it to Street Fighter 6, but I want to give a shout out to Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm Studios. I mentioned I'm a big fan of fighting games. I'm not that great at them, but I do watch a lot of fighting game content. Something NetherRealm Studios has always done is make their games really easy to watch. But yeah, so shout out for that. But Street Fighter 6, that's been such a fun game. Street Fighter 6, good times. Best family game. Oh, Super Mario Brother Wonder. Yeah, if you haven't played this with like younger people, it's an absolute blast. The having the characters that can't die from damage, like Nabbit and Yoshi's, that's fantastic. Being able to revive people just by having them float into you is fantastic. Yeah, strongly recommend it if you have younger people in your life and you have Mario Wonder. Play with them. It's an absolute blast. Best sim/strategy. But I'm going to give it to Fire Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem games are pretty great. The Engage mechanic was it was fun. It gave you some flexibility in how you did stuff. There was all kinds of references and Easter eggs. I know that the main character designs got some flack because they're like the most anime designs Fire Emblem's ever had. I like it. It's pretty distinct. They definitely stand out as characters, especially in a series like Fire Emblem, where so many of the iconic characters are dude with sword. Yeah, best multiplayer. Oh, this is interesting. This is close for me between Mario Wonder and Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to give it to Baldur's Gate 3. I think a lot more has to go into the multiplayer for it to work, and I think it works really well. Super Mario Brothers, it's just very straightforward in how the multiplayer interacts. Whereas this, like, you have party comp, you have the role playing aspect, you have all the different choices that you can talk about, fight over, make with one another. So yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so best adaptation. So for me, it's between Castlevania Nocturne and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Super Mario Brothers movie, I had so much fun with. It's just nonstop fan service in the best way possible. It's really everything I wanted out of a Super Mario Brothers movie. But I think we can give it to Castlevania Nocturne. Nocturne does some really great things with the setting that they have, that everything takes place in, with the kind of stories they want to tell and the themes they're getting into. Also, there are some truly gorgeous sequences, and I mean, Castlevania Symphony of the Night has always been one of my favorite games, one of my favorite games of all time. And I've always really liked the Richter Belmont design, and Maria summoning animals to fight has always been really cool to me. So, those help. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Castlevania Nocturne. Most anticipated game. Oh, I mean Hades 2. What else is in this category? Tekken, Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, not. I was gonna say not even close. FF7 Rebirth, I'm also very much looking forward to, but I don't have a PS5, so it'll be quite a while before I get to play it. I'm so stoked about Hades 2. I have played Hades 1 to death. I love that game, and I'm so hyped for Hades 2. It's yeah. Oh yeah. Very excited. Content Creator of the Year, it's Iron Mouse. Also, who else is here? Okay. Well, Iron Mouse is also the only one I've heard of here. Not only is she just a content machine. I'm a big fan of VTubing, and so her raising awareness and acceptability of VTubing as just a mode of content creation is fantastic. On top of all that, every single story I have ever heard about Iron Mouse as just a person is that she is just the best. She's super kind and supportive and awesome. So there aren't a lot of content creators you hear that about, I feel like. So yeah, Iron Mouse is great. that that looks so dorky. I love it. So yeah, I think this is just a good time to stop and be thankful for games. They're a great entertainment medium. I think they're also the most comprehensive artistic medium we have, and yeah, they've brought a ton of good into my life, at least. So I am very thankful for them. I'm happy to cast my votes for them. Like I said, I don't really put a lot of stock in the actual awards, but I very much appreciate taking the time to just sort of celebrate gaming and the industry and all of that. So yeah, I encourage everyone to go cast your own vote. Show support for games. They're great.